The murders of Monique and Spencer Tepe shattered a quiet Ohio neighborhood and left two young children without parents. The couple was found shot to death in their bedroom after Spencer failed to show up for work, prompting frantic calls and a welfare check. Investigators quickly ruled out a murder-suicide, noting no weapon was found and there were no signs of forced entry. For weeks, the case haunted the community with more questions than answers. Then came a stunning development. Police arrested Monique's ex-husband, accusing him of carrying out the execution-style killings while the children slept nearby. Their divorce was finalized in 2017, but there was a court date in 2025. Tonight, we are live from Columbus with the details. But first, Brendan Banfield, a former IRS criminal investigator, is accused of masterminding a twisted and calculated plot to murder his wife, Christine, inside their Herndon, Virginia home. Prosecutors allege that Brendan, seeking to escape his marriage and pursue a secret affair with the family's Brazilian au pair, Juliana Magalhães, posted online as Christine to lure a man named Joseph Ryan under false pretenses of a sexual encounter. Once Ryan arrived, Brendan allegedly shot him in the head, then turned the knife on his own wife, stabbing her to death. The au pair, who later pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, claimed that she participated under Brendan's influence. Authorities say the murder scene was staged, but Brendan maintains his innocence. Today, day one of the trial, and the au pair takes the stand. Tonight, you will hear her shocking testimony. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us here on Closing Arguments. Big hour ahead, and we begin with a case out of Virginia, a case involving an au pair, an IRS agent, and a woman named Christine who was absolutely deceived. Christine Banfield was the wife of Brendan Banfield, IRS agent. She is a nurse and a young mother of a little girl. And unbeknownst to her, she has to work. Her husband travels a little bit for work, so he's not around all the time either. They needed help. They hired an au pair. But she was deceived. Deceived by her husband and deceived by the person she entrusted with her child. What was going on? A sexual affair between the au pair and the IRS agent slash husband slash father. And it's admitted, it's not alleged, it happened. It really happened. And it began in August. And by late winter of the following year, Christine Banfield was dead. This was a twisted, deadly plot. Twisted. They enlisted or went online to get this man, Joseph Ryan, to think that he's speaking with Christine Banfield, and they're going to have this rape fantasy rendezvous in the house. And it was just, according to prosecutors, just a ploy to get Ryan over there with a knife so Brendan could be the hero, jump in, shoot Ryan, but then take the knife and kill his wife, and then blame it on the man that he shot and killed after luring him to the house. Twisted. But the whole case now relies upon her, the au pair. She got a sweetheart deal. Involuntary manslaughter. At the end of this trial, she is done serving her time, just a couple of years. She'll be released, probably deported, sent back to Brazil to live the rest of her life. In the meantime, whether or not Brendan Banfield gets convicted really relies upon her testimony, her credibility, and whether or not the jury can trust her beyond a reasonable doubt. It was day one of the trial, and she was not the first witness, but the first big witness and the most important witness. Let's take a look.
And he proceeded to go upstairs, and I just followed him upstairs to the master bedroom.
Who opened the bedroom door?
Brendan.
Did you go inside the bedroom?
Yes.
And what did you see when you went inside the bedroom?
When we first get into the bedroom, I could see that the bed we have in the master bedroom was kind of tall. And so from my point of view, all I could see was like Joe. At the moment I knew it was Joe, like on top of Christine, in a way I would only describe holding her down. And that was my first view as soon as I get into the bedroom.
Were you able to tell, were you able to see Christine at all at that point?
At that point, no.
Did anyone say anything when the two of you went into the bedroom?
Yeah, when I got to the bedroom, Brendan said, he yelled, police officer, and Christine's first reaction, that was the first time I heard she say anything at that point. And she yelled back at Brendan saying, Brendan, he has a knife. And yeah, that's when Brendan first shot Joe.
Did you see Joe before he was shot?
Yeah,
What did he look like when he saw Brendan?
shocked.
Did anyone say anything?
If anyone said anything,
Yeah, did anyone say anything in the room at that point?
yeah, because Brendan ran to Christine. She was still on the floor, and I think that point she had seen me, and she said she had asked her what to do to Brendan. I think regarding to that he shot Joe, and she said my name. She told me to call 911.
And what did you do?
I called 911.
And what happened after you called 911?
At that point, Joe was already shot, so that's the sound in the background. And Brennan looks at me and just, in a way, for me, like to hang up the call.
Did he tell you? Did he say, Juliana, hang up the call?
No, he did not.
How did he communicate to you?
A gesture.
And what gesture did he make?
This.
And so what did you do after he made that gesture?
I hung up the phone, the phone call.
What, if anything, happened next?
Next, he was on top of Christine. Joe was laying there, and for me to grab a towel. When I was bringing him the towel, he got on top of her, and that's when I first saw him stab her with a knife.
Where on her body was he stabbing her?
Her neck.
Now we're getting the details. The details of how Christine was deceived and murdered. Whew. All right, let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft joining us live from Fairfax County, Virginia. Great to see you tonight, Kelly. What a day one, and everything is happening so quickly in this courtroom. This is the au pair, obviously the most important witness. Any reaction to her testimony?
Hey there, Vinny. Yes. a lot of reaction. So I want to just set the scene. So we had heard from the medical examiner. The medical examiner completed her testimony, and then we started to hear that Juliana was going to be the next witness. All of a sudden, people start pouring into the courtroom. So it was just packed inside that courtroom. Then she was brought out of the side door. She had to walk right in front of the defendant. She was walking with a bailiff. She had on some street clothes, and then she made her way up to the witness stand. Eventually, the defendant looked up at her. She did not see him look at her, but then she began her testimony, and she was emotional as she started to describe Christine, how she said Christine was very friendly, and how in the beginning she didn't really have any interactions with Brendan. But then she went on to explain how when she was 21 years old, she then began a sexual relationship with her boss. She was the nanny, and then she began this relationship with him. The prosecutor showed many social media posts that Juliana had posted, one showing Brendan's hand on her knee. Now, you couldn't see Brendan's face in this, but at that time I was looking at the jurors to see their reaction to a lot of these social media posts. She was posting that one, as well as some other ones in which she would be close to Brendan and have an emoji over his face because it was a secret romance. She had told some of her friends, but the jurors were just riveted by this testimony, Vinny, many of them leaning in, and some had their heads tilted as they just were watching her the entire time. When some of those media posts were up, they would look at her, and then they would look at the defendant as well. Why don't we go ahead and play a little bit more of her testimony?
When I first saw that happening, I ran to the other side of the bed, and I was just crouching down on myself and covering my ears and covering my eyes. And a few times I looked, and I was able to see him stabbing her, and he would stab, and other times he would hold the knife in a position how that was.
And Vinny, then she went on to talk about the other victim in this case, Joseph Ryan. So she described how Brendan Banfield shot Joseph Ryan. The medical examiner talked about that shot hitting his head, going through his head. But then he was still alive. And so then we get to some testimony in which she is talking about now shooting Joseph Ryan. Let's go ahead and play that.
I'm telling Brendan that Joe is moving. He was moving, and Brendan, he doesn't have any reaction to that whatsoever. And I just start telling him, he's moving, he's behind you, and that's when I fired the shot too.
That's when could you say that again?
I fired
And when you say you fired what?
a gun
The gun that was where?
in my that I had in my pocket, the handgun.
Did you hit anyone?
Yes,
Who'd you hit?
Joe.
So the au pair had some shooting practice. She went to the shooting range along with the defendant. The defendant, according to her testimony, encouraged her to go to the shooting range. He went with her. We saw the service agreement from that shooting range in court today. That was shown to the jury as well as the gallery, Vinny. So she went twice to that shooting range, and then she testified there to how she used that training and then ended up shooting Joseph Ryan.
That's I'm still trying to understand it, because she's brought a gun, right? She's got a gun. She was trained with the gun, but it seems like she did it on her own. She wasn't told to shoot Joseph Ryan. She just did it on his own because he was moving. Am I interpreting that right? Because this is kind of a little twist for me.
Yeah, well, it does appear from her testimony. Now, I want to say when she's testifying, you can hear a lot of it there, and we're inside the courtroom. A lot of it is a little bit difficult to hear because she speaks in broken English, but, you know, there could be a couple different interpretations. We're going to get a much clearer picture now on cross-examination when that takes place tomorrow, Vinny. But it does appear that Joseph Ryan is still alive. So after Brendan Banfield shoots him once in the head, and then she calls 911, which was a screw up she testified to. Brendan Banfield tells her to get off the phone, not to be on the phone with 911. Christine had told her to call. And then eventually then they see that he's still alive, still moaning. And you can even hear that on that first 911 call, him moaning. But then it appears that somehow Brendan Banfield may have told her now she needs to shoot and basically finish the job of Joseph Ryan, making sure that she has now shot him. So from the testimony, it does appear, Vinny, that he then encouraged her to pull out her gun and shoot him.
All right. I just think the whole thing is strange. An au pair with a gun. It's kind of strange. All right. This man, Joseph Ryan, where did they find him, how did they find him, and how did they lure him over? That's a really important part of this whole story.
It's really important. And so what the prosecutor's theory is that they set up, Brendan Banfield as well as the au pair, set up a FetLife account. And so he was really, according to the testimony, interviewing potential candidates that would come over and violently rape his wife. And they would put messages on the social media posts, also another one called Telegram or Telegraph that they would post some messages on, and images of things like ropes and chains, and talking about using leather as well, making sure there's some leather involved. And they would end up luring a person to the home. They wanted to make sure somebody would come to the home. At first, some of the candidates were saying, well, why don't we meet at a hotel here or a hotel there? They wanted to make it clear that he needed to come to the home. And at one point, the au pair, got on the phone with Joseph Ryan. And when she was speaking with him, he said to her, according to her testimony, I didn't know that you had an accent. And so, of course, we all heard it today. She's from Brazil, so she does have an accent. So he was a little bit surprised by that. But that's how they got him to come to the home, and they ended up finding him because he said that he would be into this violent rape attack. Let's listen to a bit of her testimony regarding that.
Who chose Joe?
Brendan.
And did he say why he picked Joe after interacting with him on FetLife?
It was mostly because he made Brendan feel confident enough that he would be the person to play the role they needed the person to play, which means being aggressive and hold her down and come over to the house and bring stuff and all that, yeah.
And Vinny, one of the things that he was supposed to bring was the knife. And I will tell you, that was another big moment in court today. This was earlier in the day before the star witness ended up taking the stand, Juliana. But they brought out, the prosecutors had the bailiff bring out a huge box. And so everyone that was in the gallery was whispering, what's in the box? What's in the box? And then the bailiff began to cut open that box. Then inside that box was a smaller box. Then inside that box was an envelope. And people were saying, what is in it? What is in it? And then eventually that's when that knife was brought out that was used to stab Christine. And so then that ended up being shown to the jury as well as everyone in the gallery. But that was definitely a big moment in the courtroom, the reaction from the people that were the jurors as well as the people in the gallery.
Just day one, but what a big day. Kelly Craft live in Fairfax County. Great to see you, Kelly. We'll be speaking tomorrow, I'm sure. Big cross-examination coming up tomorrow. Okay, when we come back, we're going to bring in our think tank. They are ready to go tonight, plus coming up in the next hour. Tonight on Vinny Politan investigates a New Jersey brother accused of killing his younger brother. Now says it wasn't him, it was his other brother. Is Corey Canaro a viable suspect in the Canaro brothers murder trial? Tonight, we investigate. Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brendan Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair. So he killed his wife and another man.
He was there, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings on Court TV.
You.
At some point, while you were working for the Banfield family, did your relationship with the defendant change?
Yes.
How did it change?
It became sexual, physical relationship.
And do you recall when the relationship changed?
It was August 2022.
It happened pretty quickly. You know, first she didn't have much interaction with Brendan Banfield until she did, and then she had a lot of interaction with Brendan Banfield. Take a listen to more of the testimony here describing this relationship, which began as sexual, but then seemed to turn and become a little bit more serious.
Did the defendant ever talk with you about any long-term plans for the two of you?
Not initially.
Not initially. Did he ever, though?
Yes.
When did that talk start?
I think it started after he talked about his plan.
Okay. And did he ever talk about the two of you getting married or the two of you having children?
Yes.
And do you recall when that talk began?
Also, after he mentioned his plan.
Did he ever talk about his relationship with his wife, Christine Banfield?
Sometimes it would come up in our conversation and he would talk about it.
And what did he say?
He used to say that she didn't seem to care about where he was, what he was doing. She didn't seem to care about him at all. And that she was helpless and just lazy. No, he basically said divorce was not an option.
Did he say why?
Money was involved.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Money.
Okay. Anything else?
Money was involved and Valerie's custody too.
And what about those things? Did he say anything specifically about money or Valerie's custody?
Yeah, he said that he didn't want to have to share Valerie with Christine, that she wasn't good for Valerie. So he wanted to have Valerie full time. And money, because she should have more money than he would if they ever split.
And so he didn't want to get divorced. Did he tell you what he wanted to do?
Yes.
What did he say?
He mentioned his plan to get rid of her.
Yeah, so you don't have to pay child support. You get the life insurance. Oh, and the au pair. All right, let's bring in our think tank. Joining me tonight, criminal defense attorney, former head New Jersey County prosecutor Bob Bianchi, along with former police lieutenant, trial attorney Rick King, and national parenting and family relationship expert Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Great to see everyone tonight. I'll throw this out. I mean, this is the question I have. Should the jury trust this au pair beyond a reasonable doubt? Bob, why don't you start us off?
Okay, first of all, you know, with all the homicide cases that we could cover with gruesomeness and physicality that just looks terrible, there are those cases. And then you have those cases where it may not look that bad in the autopsy photos, but are just sinister, evil, disgusting, despicable people doing horrible things. And that's what this case is all about. So the prosecution has put all their eggs in the basket of this witness. I've been there. I get it. So the question is, will the prosecution catch fleas when you sleep with that dog, or will that dog hunt? And here's my opinion. Of course, the defense is going to frame her as a liar, a deceiver, a cheater, not only with the wife, but with the kids, a person who was going to a gun range, planning and manipulating, getting a sweetheart deal, and has all the reason in the world to lie on behalf of the state. That's true. But prosecutors are going to counter, and the jury's going to make an assessment of this person. But let's be honest, the defense's theory of how these people died relies upon her having sex with the wife. But we don't have evidence of that. We've got pictures of her having a relationship with the husband, and we also have electronic data that also supports her version of the case as well. At the end of the day, Vinny, all things being considered, the prosecutor has to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. This case is too convoluted. I had one just like it. It's too convoluted not to be true.
So juries trust cooperators every day. They don't want to, they don't like them, but they trust them every day. And what it comes down to, in this case, I think specifically, it's going to come down to how she stands up on the cross, because the cross is going to be brutal. He's going to come at her for the sweetheart deal. He's going to come at her for, well, she's not getting anything, and all of a sudden she changed her mind about what actually happened. But here's the thing, and what the prosecutors are going to do is a lot what Bob said. They're going to line up the facts that they can't change, the facts that are consistent that they have, the pictures, the social media, all that type of stuff. They're going to line those things up. And here's what she did that undermines the defense's argument. She admitted her ugly fact. She admitted that she pulled the trigger, that she shot the gun. And that's going to be big with convincing the jurors that she is being candid and honest.
I mean, to me, this is the sickest case that I've ever heard. It is so twisted and it is horrific. And I believe 100% that they were totally in this together. They planned the whole thing out. She just admitted that she shot the gun. So to me, she should be in jail as well for a very long time. But as you said, Vinny, I don't think that's going to happen.
But Dr. Sue, where do you go as a prosecutor?
Hold on. How sick is it, though, that he hired someone to come in and rape his wife? To me, that is beyond disgusting.
That's what makes it despicable. But I want to go to your point that you just mentioned, Dr. Sue, for a moment. Think of the prosecutor here. You've got 2 dead people. You've got 2 suspects. Sometimes you have to make a deal with the devil because you need to have somebody get on the witness stand to explain what happened. So that's the reason the prosecution entered into this agreement. Sometimes you have to, or you can't prove your case.
And when they make that deal with the devil, they end up with this.
But how is it justice to have her out on the streets? To get this
justice because here's the draconian choice a prosecutor has. Do you let 2 go free, or is a bird in the hand better than 2 in the bush? It's as simple as that.
And I'm not the guy who is normally guilty. Absolutely. I'm not the guy who. Okay. Yeah, but I'm not the guy who says, hey, a bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush. But here, and I'm definitely not the guy who's normally siding with the prosecutor in the cases. However, in this particular case, if you don't have her, you don't have anything. You need her in that case to make their case.
That's the point.
How about looking at it this way? Why did she flip? Is it just the sweetheart deal? Because on one hand, maybe they couldn't prove the case against either one of them if neither said anything. Why do you think she flipped, Rick?
Because she was fearful. Vinny, people flip because I don't want to go to jail. You know what I mean? And I don't want to go to jail if I have to go, I don't want to go for a very long time. And it looks like now, and I think you said this in the earlier segment, the minute this case is over, she's on the first thing smoking to Brazil. Yeah, and she's back to Brazil and life goes on for her. So this is almost a no-brainer for her. I'm sure she got with a lawyer and the lawyer said to her, hey, listen, this is what's going on here. Because ultimately, here's what happens. That defense lawyer, if she's not cooperating, that defense lawyer has to come up with a defense. And there's going to be some forensic evidence that they're going to have to explain. And if push comes to shove, guess what? We're going to point the finger at you. So she has to make that call.
Right, so the prosecutor is looking at this, and don't be surprised if they didn't go to her, because if I were prosecuting this case, I would look at it. Look, I got to hold my nose. Okay, I got to hold my nose and go after with what I believe the most culpable legally and morally in the situation. And for me, the chips will always fall of the person who had the marriage certificate, the person whose children it was, that person is the age and his maturity as opposed to the young nature of this young lady here. So it's a no-brainer. You go for him.
All right, think tanks staying where they are. When we come back, the other big story, Cody Thomas live in Columbus, the latest on the murder of Monique and Spencer Tepe and the ex-husband who's been charged. Cody's been digging and finding out a lot about this divorce between Monique and the suspected killer.
Our boss did not report to work. We haven't been able to get a hold of him for 3 hours. We are on site and we can hear.
Okay, the body. Our friend wasn't answering his phone. We just did a wellness check. We just came here and he appears dead. Okay. There's blood. He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, and there's blood.
Everybody is so heartbreaking when you think about it, and it really bothers me. You have this young couple who are absolutely in love, married on January 30th, 2021 in their home. And you see these pictures of them together, right? Like there's something popping off the screen. It's the love that they have for each other. And then they start this family. They've got a 1 and a 4-year-old at home in their Columbus home, and they're just happy. They're so happy. Now for Monique, this is her second marriage. I want to show you now the wedding photo from her first marriage. This is from Phyllis Williams on Facebook via the New York Post. Not exactly the same type of picture. Where's the warmth? She's almost like, looks a little uncomfortable in that picture from my perspective. You may see it differently. But to me, it's night and day when you look at this wedding photo versus the Monique's wedding photo with Spencer. And obviously the man that she's standing next to in this one was in court because he's the one accused of murdering Monique and Spencer and making that 1 and 4-year-old orphans and ruining a beautiful family. Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas is on the ground. He is in Columbus, Ohio tonight. Cody, great to see you. A lot of discussion, and we were talking about it last night, about the divorce between Monique and her alleged killer, McKee, Dr. McKee. And there was something on the docket in September of 2025. What did you find out? What did you discover today?
Well, yeah, Vinny, you know, we've been trying to decipher why almost a decade after their divorce is finalized between Michael McKee and Monique Tepe, why there would be a court filing between the two of them in September of 2025. And Vinny, I reached out to get a better understanding of this and why it would have been there because this filing was very unclear. I reached out to a family law attorney, a local family law attorney up here in Columbus, Ohio. His name is Dimitri Borshak of the Borshak Law Group. And Vinny, let me tell you, he gave a very, very detailed analysis of the filing of the docket, but also, Vinny, why he thinks that it is a clerical error. Take a look at this.
I truly believe that it was an error. Somebody may have typed in the wrong case number potentially. And, you know, if the clerk put in the wrong, if they put in the wrong case number, it might have automatically connected it to Monique and Michael, which is why you see that all those notices have Michael and Monique. That is my only rational, what I think realistically happened. This says that there's now a hearing, okay, in front of Magistrate O'Leary. And the hearing type is domestic trial custody. This is the code, because it says hearing type description, domestic trial custody. So they don't even have kids. So it doesn't make sense that they would have a trial on custody when they don't even have kids. In fact, you see there's another Michael McKee. And you have another Michael McKee here, all without children. So that is strange that we're having, you know, these sort of filings that reflect that there's a trial custody. That what we saw, that's the code that this is a trial custody kind of sort of hearing. Generally, when you look at somebody else's docket, there's usually something that was filed, okay? And we have nothing that is filed between 2018 and 2025. If somebody did file something, they would have to show up in person for the hearing. But I don't see anything on the docket that would reflect that there was ever a hearing, that there was anything ever actually filed that warrants a hearing. But if they did, there would have been a hearing date. Another reason of why I think it was an error. Generally, when you file something with the court, you don't automatically get a trial custody trial date, okay? Especially in Franklin County, okay? You would have, you would have an initial hearing with the magistrate, especially if it's post-decree, meaning that they finalized their divorce, now they're coming back for some reason. Before you set it for a trial, you would have status or other kinds of hearings before it gets scheduled for a trial. Another reason why I believe that this is a clerical error is if you look at here on the docket, you see under the June 17th, 2025 continuance entry that there was a previous hearing scheduled for June 16, 2025 at 11 a.m. and it was rescheduled, which is what the continuance means, to September 26, 25. Another reason I strongly believe this is a clerical error is because you don't have anything scheduling the June 17th, 2025 hearing. So it couldn't have been this case.
And Vinny, Dimitri also gave me a hypothetical situation because we know in this life there's very few definitives as you move forward through life itself. Now, he gave me this hypothetical, again, only a hypothetical. He doesn't want to seem like a conspiracy theorist as to why this potential filing could have happened. And even then, he says this could still be a clerical error. Take a listen to this.
Hypothetically speaking, if he believed that, some of those kids were his, again, because people have affairs all the time. And depending on their obsession or communication, hypothetically, he could have filed something with the court seeking to open up the divorce. Potentially that's why the hearing is, it says trial custody. But again, even if that is the case, he would have to be filing a different type of motion. It would have to be more of a relief from judgment. It wouldn't be labeled as trial custody.
So, Vinny, still very strange that this filing is in the records, but according to a legal expert right here in Columbus, Ohio, it probably shouldn't have been there anyway.
The clerical error makes the most sense to me also. And I know that we also contacted the court and they could not figure out or did not have any record of any hearing taking place. So, Cody, great work. As always, thanks so much. Let's bring back in our think tank, Bob Bianchi, Rick King, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. This was a big deal, Rick. Everyone was talking about it. Like if there was some sort of a hearing in September and then the murders in December, maybe something was amiss. What does your gut tell you?
Man, Vinny, I wish I had some idea as to what the motive behind a 10-year-old marriage, why that leads the ex-husband to come and kill his ex-wife and her husband. I wish I had some brilliant legal strategy or legal idea as to why this happened. But right now, your guess is as good as mine. When we talked last about this case, I think both Bob and I talked about surveillance going to be the key here, and surveillance won't give you the motive. It'll give you the identity most times, but rarely will it give you the motive. And I think that's where we sit right now, where we have a whodunit possibly, but not a why done it. And that's where we're kind of sitting here waiting.
Yeah, Dr. Sue, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, here's my guess on why this happened. Probably something was going on over the last 10 years that wasn't resolved between the two of them, or he became absolutely obsessed with her, could not let her go. She got remarried and he couldn't take it, and he became obsessed with her and figured nobody's going to have her. This new guy's not going to have her, and I'm going to kill both of them but leave the children alive because I'm not a kid killer. But I think you're going to see, relationship-wise, as this is uncovered, that they possibly, her and the ex-husband were having some kind of connection over the last 10 years.
They've been married for 3 or 4 years, though. Why wait so long? What was he waiting on? If that's the case, 3 years they've been married. 3 or 4 years they've been married. What's the pause for?
Who knows? But I think something was going on between her and the ex-husband. I don't know what it was, but this is my theory, and this is what I believe happened.
It could be anything from seeing each other, not seeing each other, but passing each other somewhere. Could be stalking, could be anything. Bob, what are your thoughts here before we run out of time?
Just that. First of all, I'm glad that Rick got that question first. It's very difficult to be able to answer at this point in time. But I was more inclined to your point, Vinny. Some flashpoint happened recently where they came into contact with one another that reignited an old festering wound here.
Yeah. He spared the children, right? If he's responsible, whoever the killer is, spared the children. They're right in the next room. Actually, they each have their own bedroom, but they're right upstairs. The house is up and, it's an up and down kind of house, so it's not a lot of square footage up on that top floor. Shoots him multiple times, shoots her just once, and we still don't know how he got in the house. That's another unanswered question. Big thanks, Bob Bianchi, Rick King, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Great to see you all. When we return, I will reveal something else that you need to know tonight. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinny Politan Investigates, Keith Cannero's entire family was murdered, his mansion torched, and now his brother is on trial accused of quadruple murder. Is money the motive? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinny Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinny Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Did an affair with the family's au pair lead to double murder?
He was there. I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings on Court TV.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Outburst in the courtroom. We're talking about the Uvalde case involving the police officer charged for not responding to the school shooter in Uvalde. Well, it's a very emotional, tense situation inside that courtroom. And today, a member of one of the victims' families was escorted out, not permitted to come back in. Let's show you the moment.
Thank you very much.
You know who went into the fatal funnel? My sister went into the fatal funnel.
Ma'am,
Did she need a key? Why do you need a key?
Ma'am, go ahead and
Wasn't it
have
locked? Y'all saying that she didn't lock the door. She went into the fatal funnel. She did it. No, God.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to disregard the outburst. I forewarn these folks, if they do that, there's not going to be any warnings. They're going to be removed for the rest of the trial.
It's so difficult for these families, and I honestly don't understand why we don't see that more often. Not that I'm encouraging it, it's just I don't know how these victims' families get through these trials. It's so difficult. So our thoughts are with the family, but obviously the judge had to do what the judge had to do. She can't come back into the courtroom. All right, take a look at your screens. We have a missing teen who needs your help tonight. Her name is Nakaya Amani Green, just 18 years old, missing from Tampa, Florida since the 6th of January. Please take a look at the photo, take a look at her face. If you see Nakaya, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office down in Florida. Let's see if we can get Nakaya to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinny Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.